So I'm down here at the Dead Sea, and because, well, I budget for travel every once in a while. I do have a bit of extra cash around because of the work I do. I still, as I said, I'm semi-retired, and I'm not going to refuse projects that help support my travel habit and as well as my interests, and they do contribute quite richly to my life. And so if you take a guess where I'm staying, it's pretty nice. It's a Kempinski, and which is a luxury brand. So I'm treating myself here in Jordan. The trip was one that I decided to undertake as a cheap flight out of Bologna. And I was there in Italy. I was doing my pasta course. I always wanted to see here. I always wanted to see Petra. I always wanted to experience the wonders of the Dead Sea, as well as, check out what Amman is. But this country is just rich in history. But I did not plan in any great way as I normally do, where I typically plunk myself down in a place for a week and then I stitch it together on my own. This time I actually went with a tour program I picked up out of Viator, and they had a few price levels, so I did go for the luxury one, treat myself, and not regretting it one bit. The experience has been fantastic. But it's also been quite eye-opening in the sense that Jordan is a lovely place. I always knew it was. I've had friends in Canada who are Jordanian, but most of them were, since 1948 and 1967, their families departed Palestine, and as a result of the wars, and some of their lands were occupied by Israeli settlers. Somehow they managed to make a peaceful life here. So it's very safe. And because of the drop in tourism, things are a bit more challenging here for the tourist industry. But I do hope that you do take the time to come. A few other developments that go on is, given that next door, I just got to take a break here. There's quite the party going on by the poolside. This resort is a happening place. Not my typical type of travel, but I'm not going to say no every once in a while, because sometimes you do need to go to places like this and have everything organized for you. That's totally legit, and sometimes it's just nice to luxuriate in a lovely hotel, and if you wanted to just spend time in your room and enjoy that room and that big bathtub, more power to you. Haven't quite done that. But while it's been lovely, it's hard not to notice a few things that usually I don't travel to places where there's a lot of kids in the accommodations I'm staying at. Usually I'm at an apartment or a small hotel, just wanting to get from point A to point B, or I just want a cheap place to crash with decent internet. But yeah, a lot more kids. I'm quite shocked at how many people here have their face permanently planted in their cell phone. I know, we're all guilty of it from time to time, but it's quite evident when you are thinking that you are in a resort and connecting with the local environment, as well as just entertaining yourself and just hanging out with your family, that everybody's just looking at the cell phone. Quite surprising. Another thing that is also surprising here is the amount of smokers. I can't begin to tell you how IQOS or IQOS, IQUOS, is popular here, and how many people smoke, and outdoors they smoke and also indoors they smoke. Again, they say it's not a cigarette. Again, I gotta say that the tobacco companies have done an amazing job of marketing to these people where there's such a high rate of smoking here in the Middle East. Not one of my favorite habits of being here, but beyond just the warm and hospitable people, yeah, you got to deal with the smoking. The other thing too is scent. And when you are in a hotel like this, you are in closer proximity to people at breakfast and dinner, and also just moving around and in regular circulation areas, and you do have a lot more scent to deal with. And I'm quite scent sensitive, so let's try not to wear as much scent out there, people. All right, but the goal of being here is obviously to visit the Dead Sea, and I have dreamed of visiting this place because it is the lowest point on Earth. And it was so weird coming here that my ears were popping all the time, just coming downhill towards the sea. And let's take a look at it here. This is the little bay here for the Kempinski. It's quite something. Very well organized. They have an area over there where people are putting on mud. They have an area down here where people are just chilling out and they're dry, and they have instructions on how you should be in the water for a certain amount of time, and then you should have the mud on for a certain amount of time, and you have also areas just to chill out over here in terms of like any beach area in any tourist town. But I've always wanted to come here because anything that has a weird geographic component, bring it on. I gotta go. I love these geographic oddities. Again, the outliers are always fun, and they're also intriguing, and you are going to see something amazing, which, this is absolutely fascinating. The smell here, it is mildly sulfurous, which is that Dead Sea mud. But let's take a look closer at what the shoreline looks like. You know with me that the issue of water is always going to come up in a lot of my travel videos, and this is not going to be an exception. This water level has been dropping dramatically. So as it stands right now, the Dead Sea is 1,300 feet below sea level. Sure, let's put the metric down there. So let's say that's about 400 meters. And so it's projected to be dropping down another 500 feet over the course of the century. So by 2100, the Dead Sea behind me, it is going to be going down to 1,800 feet below sea level. So what's causing this? So if you notice with the salt here, this sea is very rich in minerals. And on both sides of the border, Jordan, I'm on the Jordan side, and over there is Israel. And actually, if you look off in the back distance, you can see Israel too. They have been mining the sea for its minerals. So that's number one. Number two, they've been using the water for they've been desalinating water for public, residential, and also commercial use. This is not a water-rich area in the world. And one of the things that happened while I'm here is that Israel announced that they're going to be building a fence along the border with Jordan. So given the history of what Israel has with building fences and walls, I suspect that they're also trying to most probably put a little bit more of their domain into what they think is their right to water. Water is a precious commodity, as I've always said. Wherever there's water, you can have civilization, and the water resources here are diminishing rapidly with the growing population and the growing needs of industry. So desalination has accelerated and has led to this drop. The third thing is agricultural use. If these countries are going to feed themselves and Israel has done a remarkable job with their greenhouse industry and producing a lot of the food that they need. As Jordan, there's a lot of very good fresh food that you get here. That comes at an expense. And that some of that expense is that desalinated water that is being used in agriculture. So agriculture, desalinated water, mining for minerals. But there's also two other factors. I go the obvious one, which is climate change. So it's quite hot here. It's at the beginning of April, and it's a little bit warmer than normal that people have mentioned to me. So the evaporation rate off of the sea has increased, which is going to lead to the acceleration of that drop in the sea level here at this lowest point on the planet. But also the last point is the Jordan River. The Jordan River for years was fed the Dead Sea, and it has now been tapped for a lot of water use for residential, but primarily agriculture. And so 90% of the flow now has been reduced that used to come into this lake. So as much as I'm enjoying being here and enjoying my mud bath and just enjoying my touristic experience, I'm very cognizant that this is amongst some of the dying opportunities that we're going to have within the next 100 years to be doing this. I think about where the hotel is, over here, behind me. If you look way up there, you can see the hotel. And you can get a sense on where I am relative to that. That's going to keep falling. And the water level, as it keeps falling, that hotel is going to get further away, and this area would be claimed for other recreational uses, I would guess. And while I do question my role in this, as I am participating in mass tourism here, I would like to use my platform to talk about this, and maybe there is an issue of maybe this should be not quite for everybody, that we should be thinking a lot about the sustainability of the Dead Sea if we want to preserve the ecosystem, but it does present a massive political challenge where water is not readily available, and you have to be able to desalinate as much of the water coming out of the Mediterranean for Israel. And for Jordan, you do have the southern part of the Red Sea, but given the distance to where the major population centers are, there will still be that reliance on the Jordan River as well as the Dead Sea. So it does not bode well for what's behind me. It's unfortunate to think about that, but as things drop, we have a very good case study of what happened to the Aral Sea up by Kazakhstan and Russia. So think of this as a postcard of now with a consideration for what it will not be again in the future. The shoreline is going to be that way, that bay is no longer going to be here, and I think that we're worse off for it, but these are some of the consequences of what politics and the environment and society, when these all mix together and they are scarce resources, what this looks like. I'm gonna have a mud bath and I'm gonna enjoy my hotel a little bit more, and I'm just gonna go and soak in the sea, have a float, and I hope that you take whatever I'm here talking about, think about it in terms of what your local environment is and what some of the local politics in your area look like, and what the society that you're in, what do they value in terms of their future and your children's future, and what the sustainability of that society is going to look like. Because I know when I'm here, I can't help but think that I am on the shores of something that will no longer exist. If they keep using up the sea for its minerals, if they keep tapping it for agricultural use, and they keep using it for desalinated water use, when, to be realistic, there are few alternatives other than conservation and dipping down into aquifers that are already stressed. challenging questions for our times. So how would I describe the experience of being in the Dead Sea? Well, the water is very, very salty. There's no doubt about that. As I've always said, you don't sink in the Dead Sea. The level of salinity is off the chart. It does smell a little like petroleum in the water, but that's the minerality of the Dead Sea. And the mud bath, part of it, it's spectacular. Like I say, I do, it's like a spa experience. But compared to other seas, you can't stay in there for long. You are basically being pickled in this very salty big lake. After a while, your skin does start to burn, and they do recommend that you are only in there for 10 to 15 minutes. And with the mud, you're only supposed to have that also on for about 10 to 15 minutes. So if ever you get the chance, have this experience. That's all I'm going to say. No, don't do that. Okay. So what? I'm just going to go up here and read what the requirements are, what they recommend here. There you go. Indulge yourself in the natural black mud. And they say swim and float for about 10 minutes. After swimming, apply the Dead Sea mud directly to your body. Wait 15 to 20 minutes until the Dead Sea mud is dry on your body. Return to the sea, wash it off, and then take a shower. And that's exactly what I did. Beside the pickling and that slight burning sensation if you stay in the water too long, it's a little spiritual experience. Quite refreshing, quite rewarding, and like nothing else in the world. And yes, you could call me out on my hypocrisy for coming here and maybe contributing a little bit to this looming environmental problem. But I've always wanted to be here at the lowest point on the planet, and here I am, and I'm very thankful for it. So, with the sun setting here over the Dead Sea, Israel behind me, and my feet planted firmly here in Jordan, I'm very thankful for my opportunity to taste the world. I know I gotta work that in there somehow. All right. Peace, guys.